definitely not one of those people who believes that the world is out to get me. I know that there are people out there who don't like me, who would rather that I not be in various positions that I'm in and so forth, and I get that. I understand it. I was thinking this morning that, quite frankly, I am a very small fish in a very large sea. And so when it comes right down to it, mostly people aren't even mostly looking at me. But there are still people out there who would rather that I not be where I am and doing and saying what I am. And I get that and I understand it. But for the most part, I don't think that that's what's going on. That said, I know that there are people who are working in ways that are improper in order to get others out of positions that are reasonable positions, or that are at least not unreasonable positions for them to be in. I want to talk today about the idea of both are needed on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Friday the 7th of January of 2022. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, the podcast, YouTube, BitChute, and CloutHub. Thank you for coming along today. Remember, at the moment, Rumble is my preferred platform, so that's where I would prefer that you watch me, but I understand if you don't, and the subject for today is going to be both are needed. And I'm going to go ahead and go through my notes real quick to give you an idea exactly what it is that I'm saying so that you will understand exactly sort of my position to start with, and then we'll discuss afterwards. It is important to speak and act against folks who do important to speak and act against folks who do unreasonable, improper things? Definitely. Does that make it unreasonable to continue to discuss things and bring to light those considerations that cause us to continue to support the ideas and ideals we do? Not at all. We not only need to fight in terms of people attacking others or ourselves in unjust fashions, we also need to continue to explain and argue why we're correct. We can't do one or the other. We must do both. People live in all kinds of different places. Some need to hear reality. Some need to be shown we won't be, particularly unjustly, bullied or taken down. It's for that reason, among others, that people need to stay on mainstream social media as well as heading to new platforms that come into existence. Will we get kicked off of various platforms, banned, and whatever else? Likely, but that's either going to happen or not. It's not for me to concern myself with. That is whether or not it's going to happen. How I respond, that's for me to concern myself with. My job is to speak truth, and not just to power, to whoever might listen. I'll let the other side worry about how they respond, and I'll deal with my responses, obviously. That said, if I'm badly done by, you can count on some sort of response from me. It may not seem like much. Then again, it might. I'm not a person who will take others to court. That doesn't mean I don't think it proper for folks who feel that's an acceptable thing to do exactly that. My main point, though, is that you don't deal with a threat or problem necessarily by just one action. Your response must be commensurate with what you're actually faced with. And that means actually really your responses. It should be different responses depending on what you're faced with. And let me go on with my notes and I'll discuss this more later. If you can't talk to folks, even if you can talk to folks, even if it appears they're not listening, that's the first and best thing to do. I should say, I'll interject one thing into my notes here. Part of the reason for that is other people may be looking on and they're going to be seeing both sides of things. And if you can get them to understand, that's a bonus. If you end up having to do harsher things, the important thing to remember is simple. If you're wrong, accept it. If you're correct, it's time to decide how you're going to respond. Sometimes the best answer is to let things go. At other times, you must be prepared to take action. In all of this, the point is simple. Don't assume you can do things just one way. Sometimes it's reasonable. It's a reasonable measured commentary. In other instances, a fight is the only way forward. Now, I'm done with my notes. Look, when you deal with some situation, if you take only one approach when you're dealing with that situation, chances are you're not going to end up doing very well in whatever it is you set yourself to do. It's not, I would say it's not complicated, but it is complicated. That's the point. The point is there are very few things in life that are really very simple. Almost everything is, quote, nuanced, right? Sometimes the answer is to talk to people in the best way that you can given the circumstances. Sometimes the answer is to take somebody to court. Sometimes the answer is to, and I don't, by the way, do that, but that's just me. And if it means that I get trashed as a result, I guess it means that I get trashed as a result. But it can mean so many different, there's so many potential responses. There's not just one. There aren't even just two or three. Oftentimes there are responses that you can involve yourself in, just basically that are just this spectrum of different things that you can do. Like I say, here's the thing. You're dealing with one person. When you deal with that person, even if they get ugly, one thing that you should probably consider is not doing that. Not, at least not if they're doing things like calling names and so forth, pejoratives and so forth, right? Because other people are looking at both of you. And there will be people who will look at them and say, they beat him back. But the reality is this. In the long run, in my opinion, it's better to not exactly win the argument, but to give the better points and do the better discussion. Even if some people are going to look at you and go, you lost. That's okay. But yelling at people, calling people names, and things of that sort, to me, are not beneficial. Now, again, that does not mean, so your Parler, right, the social media app, and a bunch of people decide that they're going to ban you from their platform and so forth and shut you down, and do so on obviously ridiculous bases, right? So you go out there and you build yourself back up and you continue to work towards what it is that you were doing before. Okay? That's what Parler did. And I'm not going to tell you that I love Parler, but I am going to tell you that I have to give them a nod for the fact that they were willing to continue the battle. Some of it was taking people to court. Did it actually do anything? I don't know that that did anything. Because unfortunately there are lots of ways in which, I hate to tell you this, but that court system, it's broken. It's broken. Okay, but that all having been said, the thing is, they did not just roll over and give up. Rumble has not rolled over and given up. Gab has not. You know, there are all of these people out there, any number of platforms, that are just not going to roll over and give up. They're just not doing it. Some of them will decide in the course of time what they're doing is not really beneficial and close their doors, shutter their little business. But the reality is, I'm not saying stop fighting for what's right and what's good. I'm not saying don't fight for what's right and what's good, but I'm also not saying stop having reasonable, measured, proper conversation where, if nothing else, people who are watching the conversation from the outside get an opportunity to see who you are and what it is that you're saying. This is important. This is a very important thing. Yes, fight. Fight when you see it's necessary to do so. I'm not arguing against that. On the other hand, don't listen to anybody. I don't care if it's Dan Bongino, and I don't think he would say this. I'm just saying I don't care if it is. If somebody tells you don't continue to have measured, reasonable conversations with people as well, and that includes on social media platforms where you're probably going to be looked askance at, I'm sorry, but they're wrong. Continue to have those conversations. They are necessary and they are worthwhile. I'm not a great believer in ridicule. Some are. That's fine, I suppose, but I'm not that person. For me, it's about giving people to hold with what I believe. That's why I do what I do and what I suggest that you do as well. All right, I'm running out of time, so I need to go ahead and wrap things up. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Friday, the 7th of January of 2022. That means tomorrow will be Saturday, the 8th of January of 2022. That'll be those 2 days that sundown today will be the beginning of that Sabbath day for those who observe it, and it will end tomorrow at sundown as far as I understand it. So I hope you have a good Sabbath. I hope things are going well for you as a general thing. Hope you're, again, getting along into the new year and that things are working well for you. I recognize that that's getting old now, that a lot of people probably say, come on, give it up. But I'm not going to. I hope your year becomes better and better as time goes on. And hopefully I will see you again on Saturday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Friday, the 7th of January of 2022. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S. .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.